Lots of bases to cover today. Let's start with...
Let's get as much free advice as we can.
Let's do it.
Not signed into law yet, but the TikTok ban...
It is signed into law.
Oh, it
as
is?
of yesterday morning.
Oh, so it's signed.
Yes.
So when am I not going to be able to see my TikToks anymore?
It's interesting. I think a lot of folks don't realize how the legislation works in this country. So it was an add-on bill to the $95 billion foreign aid bill to Ukraine and Israel. A ban on TikTok has nothing to do with the war in Ukraine and the war in Israel, but it was added on, and the president signed the foreign aid bill, which then made the TikTok ban go into effect yesterday. They have 9 months to sell TikTok to another company, or if they're in the process of a sale, they're given 3 additional months. But at no point are they allowed more than 12 months from yesterday to completely sell TikTok to another company.
Wow.
The company that owns, which is a Chinese company that owns it, has said they're going to fight back. They're going to file a lawsuit and say it violates the United States Constitution for the right of free speech, which is very ironic because there is no such thing as free speech in China. In China, if the government wants to shut you down, they shut you down.
Absolutely.
If the government wants to put you in prison, they put you in prison. So it's ironic that they're going to use the laws of the United States to benefit them when they want it to, but they don't have it in their own country. Be that as it may, that's the same position I would take. I would say, listen, this is a political ploy. We're not really using TikTok to, affect an election. We're not really trying to spread misinformation. Whether they are or not is up for debate, but that it violates the right of free speech for all these TikTok creators and everybody that's putting information out there. And so this ban should not be true law. And what's going to happen is it's going to wind through the courts pretty quickly, and it's going to get to the United States Supreme Court, which leans conservative right now.
Sure.
And my guess is, if you ask me to handicap whether the current sitting Supreme Court is going to uphold the ban, I think it's going to be a 6-3 or 5-4 decision to uphold the ban.
Oh, wow. Really?
I do.
So you're saying after that it'll become the Noble McIntyre TikTok?
Yeah, we're already in negotiations to change that.
Okay.
What I think will happen is that there will be a friendly sale. There was a time in this country when they forced Standard Oil to split into ExxonMobil and all those other companies. So it's not like TikTok's going to go away. The TikTok creators out there that are concerned it's going to go away. It's just going to be owned by somebody else, and some of those somebody else's will probably be some of the same owners today. So it's just going to change names. It'll still be around. I don't think anything's going to change except for ownership.
Quickly, before we move on to the next topic, is free speech... So we all have free speech.
Right.
But if you're on a privately owned platform, there's not really free speech there if the person that owns the company decides, I'm going to control what speech is on this platform. Correct?
Correct. No, that's correct. A company can determine what is said or not said. For instance, if I work for Sonic Corporation and all I want to do is talk about McDonald's, the Sonic people say you can't work for us to talk about McDonald's. You work for Sonic.
Right.
So so that's not a violation of the person's free speech as much as is an employee doing something adverse to their employer. So TikTok could shut down TikTok all on their own, saying we don't like what you folks are saying. There's too many pro-American stuff on TikTok, and we're a Chinese-owned company, and they could do that and wouldn't be violating your free speech.
Right.
That's their corporate right to do that. But they couldn't squelch if they're going to let other people talk and give their opinions. They can't tell you can't give yours. And so, it's a slippery slope. There's a lot going on there. But what I would tell every TikTok creator out there, though, is I wouldn't sweat this too much. Sometime in the next year, it's probably going to get resolved and worked out, or the company will get sold. The platform may change names, may change ownership, but you're still going to make your videos of your cats. I mean, it's
come on now. Gotta have the cat videos.
I actually saw a comment that I could totally get on board with. I'm all about freedoms, but let's just just get rid of all the social media.
I think
of all the problems that it causes anyway.
It has caused, I didn't grow up with it. The internet didn't even exist till I was in college. Phones didn't sell. I remember when I was a senior in college, I saw somebody talking on a cell phone during peak hours. Remember peak hours?
Yes.
I thought they're just showing off. They have a lot of money. Today, kids don't even understand what that is.
You had to wait until 7 p.m.
But I didn't grow up. I grew up in Burns Flat, Oklahoma, class of 21. The people I knew were those folks. You can grow up today in a class of 21, but you know people all around the world, and you're comparing yourself to those folks. And these kids today have some mental health issues because they're so busy at this impressionable time of life, comparing themselves to somebody that appears better than them. And there might be filters, there might be false advertising, might be anything. I grew up thinking nobody was better than me because there were 21 people in my school and we're all the same. And so I think it does mess with kids' heads today.
Totally.
You want to talk about the Turks and Caicos?
Well, so I heard about this Oklahoma couple, Ryan and Valerie Watson.
It's a tough deal.
Dude had a duffel bag that was used on a hunting trip that he took with his wife on a little maybe second honeymoon getaway. As they're leaving Turks, they're examining the bag, and in the inside bottom of the thing, we talked about this earlier, were some bullets from a hunting trip. They've got him for potential big crimes.
That could possibly be, what, 12 years?
12 years.
12 years. And he's still at the Turks. So how could you help him? What would happen?
Well, you talk about how to kill your country's economy and tourism. I mean, nobody's going to want to go there if that's how they're going to treat people from different countries.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous because a bullet's no different than throwing a rock at that point. If you don't have a gun to put it in, it's just a heavy object.
Yeah.
And what they had on the books is they've got crime in that country. They've got people that own guns and firearms. It's not illegal to own a gun there. Right. It has to be licensed and regulated. And they put on the books in order to fight crime and murder over there that if you're caught with an unregistered firearm or unregistered ammunition, you would be punished 12 years in jail, mandatory, no outs. It wasn't anticipated that would be tied to just somebody making an honest mistake, a tourist coming in. There's no exceptions under the current law. Whether you're a male, whether you're a female, whether you're a tourist, if you come and there's a businesswoman over there now who had a single bullet from her husband in her bag, didn't know it was there. She's facing the same crime, the same 12 years. There's no provision in the law as it's written right now for any leniency. It's 12 years mandatory prison for bringing in a single bullet, whether it was intentional or deliberate or not. In this country, intent matters. You know, if you intended to do something, it's a different crime than if you accidentally did something. And over there, as it's written now, it's terrible. And unless they change that law, and they've made no indication that they're going to, this guy's facing 12 years in prison.
So
what would I do? I'd hire some mercs and go break them out. But I mean, I'm just kidding. Everybody's listening out there. But, I'd get the guy from Taken, and here we go.
That's right.
Liam Neeson, we'd go get him. But it's a tough deal because the law is incredibly harsh. And I think the only thing that's going to affect a change over there is the tourism, which they rely on so heavily. If that takes a nosedive and it affects the economy over there, then they'll make a change.
Any chance our government gets involved?
I think it should.
It should.
I think that we should lean on them and say, listen, these are United States citizens you're doing this to. This was not a deliberate act. Whether our current administration will do that in view of all that else is going on in the country, because you're talking about we're dealing with a war in Ukraine, we're dealing with a war in Israel, potential Middle East developments all the time. Are we going to take time away to talk to Turks and Caicos about one person? I think we should, but whether we will or not, I don't know.
Priorities.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Josh brought us a story a little bit ago about Alec Baldwin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
the story was that Alec Baldwin was at a coffee shop, and he obviously had the incident recently, the movie, and shooting the woman and killing her, obviously. But there was a lady that went to this coffee shop as well and was in his face with a phone and kind of like pestering him and coming at him,
about
calling him a murderer, and all of that stuff. And it got so far that he was asking her to leave, open the door and everything. And then she got even closer, and then he hit the phone out of her hand.
Okay.
Is there a case against her being that close to him, or even him hitting the phone out of her hand?
Because we would have all done the same thing.
I would have taken the phone and thrown it across the room. Technically, assault and battery, yes. If you strike something that they're holding or their hand, you can be charged with assault and battery. The question is will a jury, first of all, will a district attorney even bring that claim? In this case, no. There's going to be other video of her being the way she was being.
Right.
And he probably, I didn't see the video, but I'm sure he exercised, if it led on for as long as you said, some restraint more than what some of us would have done. No jury is going to prosecute, whether you like them or not. Nobody wants somebody in their face with a phone, and then that same person whining and complaining if the phone gets slapped out of their hand. I mean, put the phone in my face. I'm an attorney. I know law. I'm still going to slap the phone out of your hand after a minute, and I'll take my chances telling a jury, listen, if they're going to be this way, then I'm going to respond in kind. It's not like he got up and punched her in the face. It's not like he got up and shoved her over a table. He said, get the phone out of my face, and when she didn't do it, he removed the phone. I don't care. I'm not a huge Alec Baldwin fan, but I'd have done the same thing. And I think your average person would have.
Could she be charged with harassment?
Back to the free speech thing. She's got a right to be an idiot. And we haven't passed a law yet to tell people they can't be an idiot.
Gotcha.
And that's obviously what she's doing. And people have grown up in this country here lately where they feel like they can say and do whatever they want, no matter how harmful or hurtful. In the old days, and I'm not saying this is the way it should be, in the old days, you'd catch a right cross from somebody. And the way you learned was the consequence of your behavior. Decisions have consequences. A lot of people have been shielded from the consequences nowadays because we can't tell anybody they're wrong. We can't judge anybody. We can't do anything. It wasn't like that 25 years ago. It's going to be a cycle back. The pendulum is going to swing the other way someday.
Is there any kind of law? I know it's state by state basis. Is there any kind of law as far as filming somebody without their knowledge or without their permission?
For children, yes. For adults, no. If you're out in public, and that's why you can see some of these magazines where a photographer will have a long-range camera and he'll get somebody like Kate Middleton in private, suntanning nude in the backyard and take that photograph, and there's no real consequence to them to do that. If you're an adult and you're in public, you have to assume somebody's going to be having a camera, and everybody has a camera nowadays. Look at what Meta's done with the eyeglasses now. Sunglasses that have a built-in camera. You don't know. Somebody could be walking around filming everything and you're not aware because it's built in. At least what they have to hold the phone up, but if it's built into the sunglasses, you don't. And so you almost have to assume. Look, the only reason I didn't get in trouble more when I was a kid was we didn't have phones with cameras. Today, I'd been in trouble as a kid. I'm so glad they didn't exist.
You might not be a lawyer.
I might not be. They might not have let me take the bar. Apparently, streaking is considered indecent exposure, and I did that in Burns Flat.
It was just summertime.
It was summertime. It was hot. We didn't have indoor air conditioning all the time. Yes.
Always fascinating.
Is that how we're ending?
Yeah.
Ask Noble at TylerMedia.com if you got a question. Thanks, Noble.
You bet.